But at the same time, my body was like, yes, you are doing it. You're pushing this baby out. Hello and welcome to Mothering Happily. I'm Sarah and I'm a new mum to a 3-month-old baby girl called Sophia. In today's story time, I'm going to be talking about my birth. I was actually induced and I'm going to go into a lot more detail about that. But let's take it back to 40 weeks pregnant. When I was 40 weeks, I thought, I'm going to have my baby this week because I'm 40 weeks now, I'm full term. And that was it. I thought I was going to have my baby. I was looking out for the signs and symptoms and I was going for walks, I was bouncing on the ball. But as the days went on, I didn't feel anything. And I just started to get really disheartened and really down about it and really fed up. Then when I got to 41 weeks, I was booked in for a stretch and sweep. So I had the stretch and sweep and nothing. I wasn't dilated, there was no signs, and she said, I'm probably going to be induced. So they booked me in for an induction the following Saturday when I would be 40 weeks and 10 days overdue. And I was so gutted. I was really upset that day and I went for a really long walk because I thought, no, she's wrong. I will be dilated. I'm going to start this. I'm going to get this baby out. I'm going to start labour myself. You are wrong, professional midwife. I know better. So nothing happened, surprise, surprise. The day before I was booked in to go into hospital, Joe and I went for a meal and I started to come to peace with what was going to happen. I thought, actually, it's going to be quite nice because I know I'm going in and coming out with a baby. There's no more guessing, there's no more waiting, that's it. You know, I'm at the end now. I'm finally going to get to meet my baby. And that's how we went into hospital, feeling very positive, very chirpy. It was really surreal in the hospital room. We had a lovely room. We were just there like, what do we do? Like, what do we do now? I was bouncing on the ball and Joe was on his phone and we just sort of were agitated and twitchy and excited. About an hour after I got into hospital, I was given my pessary to start my induction, which was something they put up you to help you. I think it helps thin your cervix wall. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I went to sleep. Well, I didn't really sleep, I was too excited. And I started to get feelings at about 2 in the morning. And I knew they were proper contractions this time. I'd had a few Braxton Hicks, but I knew these were the proper ones. They felt like the period cramps that everybody tells you about for labour. And then at 3 o'clock, my waters broke. And I thought, yes, I've done it. I broke my waters. Yay, go me, go body. And we called the nurse in and, you know, she said, just wait and see what happens in the morning. And it was a big gush as well. It was one of those ones. I went back to bed. I didn't really. I think I was watching a film on my iPad. And in the morning, nothing. I didn't feel any contractions, nothing at all. And the midwife came in and said, you're going to have to be put on the synthetic drip. And I was gutted because I really didn't want that. I just really didn't want the drip because I'd heard that it goes really intense. And that is what happened for me. My contractions went really intense really quickly. I was put on the synthetic drip at 10:30 in the morning. And by 11:30 I asked for an epidural because they were just so intense. I tried gas and air but it didn't hit the sides and it made me feel sick. And they were just coming one after another. It was like contraction, 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 boom, boom, boom. Oh, I also wasn't dilated still. So I thought, I can't go through this for very long because they were so intense. And the epidural was great. It instantly relieved it. I felt so much better, but I was bedbound. And I think I just napped for a bit then. By about 4 o'clock, I was only about 3.5 centimetres, I think, or about 3 centimetres dilated. And I was really disappointed. I was really hoping I'd be further along. But they said, oh, you're doing great. It's about 0.5 centimetre per hour and that's what you're doing. So this was now the Sunday, by the way. So I would still have been in labour Monday morning. I just thought, oh, no, I just don't want that. Because I was bedbound. I couldn't even get out to go to the toilet. I had to have, what's it called? A catheter or something. I couldn't do anything and I was starting to get bed sores and I wasn't allowed food or water. I was nil by mouth just in case I needed an emergency C-section. Also, my contractions were going crazy. I couldn't feel them, I just felt a pressure. But on the monitor, that's the monitor by the way, the contractions. On the monitor, the midwife said they were going really crazy, so she had to keep adjusting the drip to sort it out because I think if I'd have gone too quickly and my body wasn't ready for it, it could have caused complications. By 8 p.m, I was 9 centimetres dilated. I sent my mum home earlier, so we called her up and said, right, it's gonna happen soon. come back now. And the midwife said, we're gonna get this baby out before midnight. And I was like, yeah, let's do it, let's get this baby out. So I was raring to go at this point. I had a sort of new lease of life. I think I've been sick at this point though, so I was starting to get really fed up. So it was the news I needed to hear, and I just had to go a little bit further, and then I was nearly fully dilated, but her head was just pushing against a little bit of cervix, so I had to, the midwife had to help me just manipulate the baby and push it a little bit so that the head was ready to come out. And that happened. Then I had to have a resting period of about 2 hours, which was frustrating because I just wanted to get this baby out at this point. Then I started to push, and I think it was about 11:15. And anyone who's been in labour will know how exhausting pushing a baby is. It is so exhausting, and I'd had no food, no drink. I couldn't move my legs. I was in stirrup. It was a typical TV film birth, and they were going, you can do it, push, push, you can do it. And I got to the point and I just remember shouted, stop telling me I can do it, I can't do it anymore. And I was just frustrated because I got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. Nothing was happening, that's the thing. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the baby was back to back. So I was laying on my back and the baby was back to back. So what that means is a baby ideally would be back to your tummy so that they can sort of go down like that. But back to back means they have to go over the pelvis a bit. So they have to go there. So it's harder. Now ideally I would have been stood so gravity could help, but I couldn't because I had an epidural. So I was bedbound. So it was even harder. I remember screaming for a C-section. This always gets me really emotional talking about this because this is for me where the trauma, this was the traumatic bit for me. I got really hysterical because I just couldn't do it. I just felt like I couldn't do it. I just needed help, and I just thought there's no way I could get this baby out. And I didn't feel like anyone was listening to me when I was saying I can't do it, and I really meant it. I really knew that I couldn't do it on my own. And crying and screaming, I projectile vomited everywhere. It wasn't pleasant. It was a mess. It was everything I didn't want my labour to be. I was screaming in pain. I even got told off for screaming. And I begged for a C-section, but the midwife said it was too late. And then I just begged for help. And I think I begged for forceps in the end, which again, I just desperately didn't want. Everything about this birth so far was not what I wanted. It was not my peaceful water birth where I was going to breathe my baby out, put it that way. So the doctor came and used forceps, and she was just like an angel sent from above. She was so calming and had this voice that was, it was beautiful. And I just felt this wave of calm go over me momentarily. And then she started to prepare me for forceps. So with forceps you have to be cut. You have an episiotomy because obviously you have to get them in. And she put one in, and it felt like 10 minutes that this forceps was in. It was absolute agony. It was the most painful thing I've ever had in my life. And then she put the other one in, and she had to put her foot on the bed and pull the baby out whilst I was pushing, because all throughout this my contractions were still going and I was still pushing, but I was just so exhausted. And I remember at one point saying, I'm not doing it, and I tried to close my legs and I had to force my legs open. I was going, no, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. But at the same time my body was like, yes you are doing it, you're pushing this baby out. But nothing had happened. Her head wasn't anywhere near out. They pulled the baby out with forceps and it was instant relief. And they put the baby on my chest, and let me tell you, that was the single greatest moment of my life. It's like, I can't describe it. If you've had a baby, you'll know. There's just nothing like it. And whilst I was having my skin to skin time with Sophia, they were stitching me up. My epidural had well worn off. I didn't really feel it or was aware of it because I was just so in awe of this tiny human on my chest. And I remember saying, is she definitely a girl? And then I think I also was saying, no, please don't take her away from me. I don't know why, I got it in my head that they were going to take her away from me. And I just was crying and obsessing over her. It was just amazing. It made it all worth it. Following the birth, I obviously went home and I was in a lot of pain. So with a episiotomy, so I was stitched up sort of internally and externally, and it was painful. I had to sit a lot, and then I started to get bed sores, so I had to order a donut cushion to sit on. And obviously you're trying to learn breastfeeding and do everything else, and I'm going to go into all of that in a different video. But it took me a while to recover physically. They said by 6 weeks, you know, it should be fine, should be recovered. So 6 weeks came and I was still in quite a lot of pain, and I knew something wasn't right. I mentioned it to a few professionals, health professionals, and they said, I think you need to go to the doctors. So that's what I did, and I was given antibiotics. And once I'd taken my course of antibiotics, I started to heal a lot better. But I actually had an appointment at the hospital for a session called Afterthoughts. And I'll go into that in a moment. But whilst I was there, she got a doctor to look, because I thought I wasn't healing. I was really panicking that I'd opened up. But she said what's happened was I'd overhealed and produced too much scar tissue. I think it's called granulation. So that made me feel better, and it's kind of corrected itself now. But anyway, this session, Afterthoughts, was really, really useful, and I'd highly recommend it to people who have had a traumatic birth, because I had a lot of post-traumatic stress from this. I was having flashbacks, I was really struggling with it, I felt like a failure, I was questioning whether I wanted children again. It was really hard. But I went to this session called Afterthoughts, and it was a midwife who specialises in the aftercare of mums, especially with traumatic births. And she was just brilliant. She was amazing, and she taught me through it, and she helped me to think of it in a totally new way. So she explained that throughout my pregnancy, I had been told that I was going to have a perfect birth. I was going to go into hospital, well, I was going to labour at home, my waters were going to break, I was going to have contractions, I was going to labour at home for a bit, come in, breathe my baby out, have a water birth and all of this. And obviously that didn't happen. And she was like, on behalf of midwives, I apologise, because it is our fault that you feel like a failure in this. And I was like, yeah, you know, I love, my midwives were brilliant, they were amazing, but I had been sold this perfect birth, and it obviously didn't happen like that. And she also helped me to see that my birth as a first-time mum was pretty normal and quite common. Since then, I've spoken to a lot of mums, and it's amazing how many other mums have had a birth like mine. And that started to make me feel okay about it and come to peace with it and think, oh, okay, you know, I wasn't a failure. And she said, what was your main goal of having a baby? And I said, well, to get the baby out safely. And that's what I did. I got the baby out safely. But thinking about it in that way, I've come to terms with it now, and I actually feel a lot better about it. And I feel proud of my birth, and I now get emotional of how proud I am, and I sort of really feel a bit gutted that I was so hard on myself about not having the birth that I thought I was going to have. That is my story time video of my labour and delivery. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's useful to some of you, and I hope it helps some of you prepare for a more realistic birth. I'm not saying you're going to have a birth like that. I really hope you don't have that birth, but if you do, it's okay. As long as the baby gets out safely, that is all that matters. And it's such a short moment of your life. It is true what they say, your body does forget, and you do move on from it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment and like and put the bell on and all of those things. It really help me out. I'd love to get a discussion going on this, so if you've got any questions or you want to kind of share your own experiences, please share it in the comments and let's have a conversation about this. Thanks for watching. Bye.